Welcome to Community Forum. My name is John Galiziano and I'm your host. This evening I have with me State Representative Bob Godfrey. He represents the 110 District. He's been here a number of years. He's an old friend of the show. And I want to welcome him to the show once again.
Always a pleasure. I think it was like one of your first guests originally, way back 1,000 years ago when you started.
Yeah, in 1995.
1995. My
right.
God, time flies. I turned 60 in September. So
wow, we won't talk about age. Let's not talk about age. Yeah, but we do want to talk a little bit about your background for the new people in the area.
Sure, and there are a lot
of new people.
A lot of
about the schools you went to, how long you've been in Danbury, and
I was born in Danbury in 1948. My dad was Doug Godfrey. He's passed away now. A lot of people knew him when we owned the Stony Hill Pet Center. My mother's Rita Godfrey. She's been a registered nurse since she graduated from the old Danbury Nursing School back in the 1940s. A lot of people know her because she was a school nurse for a number of years toward the end of her career. I still live in the same house we moved into in 1954 on Stillman Avenue. Went to St. Peter's School, went to American High School, was in their first graduating class. Went on to Fordham University. I have a bachelor's degree from there. Took a few years off, was in the Navy, 7 years, 2 years on active duty. The rest was reserve time.
You didn't get seasick, did you?
I joined the Navy to see the world, and they sent me to Newport, Rhode Island. So no, there wasn't many opportunities to get seasick. Came back, worked on some local campaigns, got involved and got taken to Hartford as a staffer in the 1977 and 78 sessions and kind of got the bug for state politics. Worked for the Chamber of Commerce, doing advocacy there for a number of years in Danbury, for 4 years there. Decided in midlife to go back to school, went to law school, University of Connecticut School of Law, graduated from there in 1985 with a JD. Passed the bar exam. I'm glad I only have to do that once. Practiced law with the old Connecticut Bank and Trust Company, and in 1988 was first elected to the House of Representatives after 5 years on the City Council in Danbury, and I've been there ever since, and I love it. Currently, I'm the Deputy Speaker, which means I get to play with the big hammer in front of everybody every once in a while. And I serve on a few committees. The only one of any real substances, though, is the Judiciary Committee. Having a legal background, that certainly helps, because that deals with, obviously, criminal law, the Department of Corrections, and here I am, back on your show again.
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah.
How's the campaign going?
The campaign's going very, very well. We have this new public campaign financing this year, and I have qualified. The paperwork's going in. So thanks to all the taxpayers, because this is really cleaning up. This is the clean campaign fund. I don't have to go begging lobbyists for money anymore, which is a relief.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all transpires. And then I'm going to talking to a lot of people about what we've done this year, what we've done in years past, and really, there's no question in my mind that the economy and health care and those kind of home and hearth issues are on people's mind this year, and that's what we've been working on this year and last.
Yeah. The theme of your campaign is defending working class and middle class people.
Yeah.
What would you define middle class?
I don't buy into the McCain under $5 million by any chance.
Yeah.
I define rich as being totally secure financially, including not having to worry about putting food on the table, not having to worry about your pension, worry about health care, not living paycheck to paycheck. So the middle class, to me, are people who yes, have some money aside, have been able to buy a house, have been able to take a vacation now and then, raising their families here in Danbury. So it includes people who make 5 figures. It includes people who make 6 figures. So I understand it's almost an emotional state rather than a financial one, but I think
you don't use the Obama thing where he says 250 or higher.
Well, no.
Yeah.
This is Connecticut. I understand the standards of living and incomes are higher here, and in fact, the median income, I know for myself as a single person in Connecticut, is about $47,000 a year.
That's a medium.
As a legislator, I make about not quite half that. But if you're doing some kind of an income curve, that 49,000 around there is the middle,
Right.
with half higher and half lower. And my particular district, which is downtown Danbury and the residential neighborhoods around it,
That's like a horseshoe, right?
it actually looks like a Scotty dog, but
Okay.
stay away from the Rorschach test. It's very strange. My district is a sea of average, surrounded by some of the most expensive and the richest parts of the world when you get into the rest of northern Fairfield County. And I'm quite cognizant of that and quite cognizant of who my constituents are. I do go bend over backwards to stay in touch with them and understand what's going on. But things that are happening to them are happening to me and my family too. So it's not difficult. As I said, I've lived in the same place now for 54 of my 60 years here in Danbury. So I do try and stay attuned. And these are the people who I think in the last 8 years or so have been under attack. They have seen their earning capacity drop.
Like the gasoline eating in.
The gasoline, the cost of living has run far away from inflation and far away from their ability to keep up to their standard. We've all lost ground, mostly because of what's happened internationally, globally, and nationally, not particularly what happened here in Connecticut. We are better off. Yes, I understand that the nation is in a recession right now. In fact, as we tape this, we're watching the stock market
melt down.
Go into the trash can.
Right.
We are better off. In fact, I just yesterday got some of the latest reports on the Connecticut economy. The recession hasn't hit as bad here. Yes, you're seeing some of the mortgage and real estate issues hit here, but it's not as bad in other places.
Well, give it a few days.
We're stabler, although we'll see what happens now
with the stock
Lehman
market.
Brothers and Merrill Lynch and all that. I'm nervous. Yeah. I'm nervous about.
Now you're comparing your campaign with what's wrong with the Republican Party.
Well, where have they been?
And they don't seem to be waking up to the economic realities here.
They just are out of touch. And I mean, the perfect example this year.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage. Now, currently the minimum wage in Connecticut is $7.65 an hour, which it's ahead of the national, but then our cost of living is much more expensive. So we passed a bill during the regular session that would raise that to $8 an hour January 1st of 2009 and to $8.25 the following January. Now, when I do the math, that's an increase next year if you're working at the minimum wage full-time for the entire year, and happily most people don't. They have to move them, but that's another $728 a year. That's how low it is. And when we're talking,
doesn't cover the gas increases.
And certainly, the minimum wage that's about somewhere between $15,000 and $16,000 a year income for the minimum wage earner. And again, compare that with the median income of pushing 50. It's really low.
It's very low.
And also I compare, of course, $728 a year at the minimum wage with the $600 economic stimulus check that most of us got from the federal government.
That might pay your utilities for the month.
It pretty much had, I have to run up to Hartford a lot. Pretty much covered the gasoline costs, and which disturbed me because, of course, that's not a rebate. That's not getting some of our tax money back from Washington, because our tax money that went to Washington this year was spent by the Bush administration years ago. They had to borrow the money from China. Those checks should have been made out in yuan, not in dollars. Right. I swear, it really drives me crazy. So here you have the situation where I voted for this bill, raising the minimum wage $728 a year compared to the $600 handout from the federal government borrowed from China. Tell me which is more socially responsible. Tell me which is more personally responsible. I know you've heard the phrase, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat his entire life.
Right.
I'm looking at teaching how to fish by saying you've got to work for this money, not get a handout. And what does the Republican Party do? Well, first, all but like 3 or 4 in the House out of 44 of them voted no. And then the bill passed the Senate, went off to the governor. She vetoed it. She vetoed it. Now, 74% of Republicans polled said that they were in favor of the increase. Democrats, it was almost 100%. So it came back to the House, and at the veto session in June, we brought it up to try and override. And we succeeded. But what disturbed me is the Republicans, all but one in the House, Penny Bacchiacchi, I will name her, she's a wonderful woman, all of the Republicans who had voted yes for the bill originally flipped to noes. Flipped to noes. What's wrong with this picture? You know, the productivity in this country has gone up so much in the last year because of technology and other reasons people are working longer. I think work is a dignified state of being, is a dignified status. It deserves to be rewarded. You should pay for an honest day labor with an honest day's salary.
Especially since it's such a low figure.
And it's such a low figure. And what's wrong with this? And of course, it's also symbolic in that it does say we want to reward work at an appropriate level.
Of course, there are some intellectuals on the other side that want to bring back slavery, and that's a way to overcome costs of living. You know,
yeah, Whoopi Goldberg brought that up. I understand on The View a few days ago. And it also it's a signal to businesses to kind of take all of that profit that they're making, and share it. Not just with the shareholders, but with the workers. There are some intellectuals on the other side who really believe that the value of human life, the purpose of human life, rather, is to enhance shareholder value. I don't subscribe to that in the least.
We're not talking about.
I'm an old, I went to St. Peter's School and Immaculate High School. Those aren't on the list of things that is going to be counted at the final judgment.
Right. We're not talking about GM anymore. See,
no.
Everything what was good for GM,
right.
Well, that's out.
No, because obviously GM doesn't know how to economize its way out of a paper.
So we don't talk about that, but now we're talking about shareholder value.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
shipping jobs to China.
Well,
all right. That's another story.
That's George Bush's legacy. Presidents worry about their legacies.
Now, in the federal maximum credit for a family of 4 with less than
earned income tax credit. Now, this is another thing that I was involved in the beginning of the session this year, back in February. Now, the federal government on your federal income tax form has an earned income tax credit, and basically what it is, if you're working, you have income, working income, wages, not
dividends,
coupon clipping and that kind of thing. And your tax liability is less than the credit for the federal government's $4,000 and change for a family of 4. If your tax liability is less than that or 0, you get back from the federal government a check for the difference between what you would owe and that amount. This was created by Gerald Ford, not a screaming liberal.
Right, by any stretch.
This was praised by Ronald Reagan as the best thing to have happened to taxation in this country in his lifetime. 42 states, in their state income tax schemes, have an earned income tax credit. I've been trying to push this now for 6-7 years. And we offered it again in February. It'd be about 20%, 20 to 25% of the amount that the federal government.
And let me guess what they did.
Well,
no.
2 things.
Okay.
I've learned to enjoy irony because I see so much of it in my professional life. The Senate Minority Leader, Senate Republican Leader, John McKinney, his district's just south of here, endorsed it. Thinks it's a great idea. I got a letter from Mayor Mark Boughton saying, in essence, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and because it kind of is. The governor said over her dead body. She's not going to do it. She wouldn't sign it. She'd veto it. She got all the Republicans to oppose it. We didn't even get to have a vote on it. What's wrong with helping working people? You've got to have a job. You've got to be working to qualify for this. This is a conservative point of view issue, yet we don't have it again this year. That's another disappointment.
Yeah, you just got to keep trying, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squeaky wheel.
Now, healthcare is another one of your issues, and
Absolutely.
what other things would you like to see?
Well, we've been talking about and pushing the idea of letting people buy into the state's healthcare system. Now, technically, I'm a state employee, one of the lowest paid ones. I don't mind that.
Right.
But a state employee, and I have the state's health insurance plan. It's really good. I have Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. I have a low copay. I includes I wear, believe it or not, I'm wearing glasses. I'm wearing contact lenses.
Right.
Has dental. It's a really good plan. It's the kind of plan everybody would like to have. And because we have 60,000 plus employees, we just don't go off and buy this off the shelf. We actually, our comptroller, Nancy Wyman, sits down and negotiates price with insurance companies simply because of the volume.
Right.
And the actuaries love us because we're a pretty healthy bunch. So both Nancy and her predecessor, Bill Curry, was in the comptroller's office, said, well, why don't we let people buy into this? Because you can buy into it, it doesn't cost the state anything extra. You're actually buying insurance from Blue Cross or Blue Shield or from a number of HMOs that we also have as an option. But it's cheaper because the cost is negotiated.
Right.
And so we thought we'd take a first step, a big one though, and allow small businesses and municipalities to buy into this, buy into the state plan. We ran the numbers for the city of Danbury.
Right, I was going to say, how does that work for a city?
The city of Danbury would have saved $2.5 million in property tax payers' money. That's $500,000 if they bought into the state plan. And at the beginning, Mayor Boughton actually thought it was a good idea, but then he changed his mind.
The winds.
Yeah.
Yeah, the winds of politics. Yeah.
And certainly, I remember when I was doing the door-to-door 2 years ago, I was talking to one guy who, electrician, had a couple of employees, had his family. He's paying like $15,000 a year just to cover his business for health insurance. And I kind of ran the numbers. And he could have gotten that done. If he could buy into our health insurance, number one, it's a better plan, and number two, it would cost him $12,000. That's a big savings for him. That's one of the best things we can do for the micro businesses, the one, people like you, people like my family when we owned the pet shop. That would be a huge savings. But the governor vetoed it. There are those who suggested that...
And she had votes to sustain the veto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have a supermajority in the Senate.
But
the votes weren't there. The votes were there in the House. The votes were there in the Senate.
Yeah.
I can count.
Well, maybe a half step might be a way of going, because there are a lot of small groups that they pay the highest rates.
Yeah.
Like the twos, the ones and the twos.
Yeah. Oh,
taking all of those people, those are the ones that are paying the highest rates out there. So if you did that half step, there'd be a lot of support for that.
Because a few years back, we permitted nonprofits to buy in.
Right.
And that's
you go for
popular.
the ones and the twos and bring the municipalities in once again. That might fly.
And I need to emphasize this. It's voluntary.
Right.
If you want to, you can buy into this. Run your own numbers, see if this is cheaper or not. If it is, buy into it. If you don't like it, that's fine too.
Yeah.
It's all voluntary. It's not mandatory single payer. It's not like Massachusetts. It's not like some of the socialist things that have been floated around over the years. This is strictly voluntary, and the state's not paying for it. You're just buying into the state's insurance policies that we have with private insurers. But she vetoed it. That would have been the next step, because the next step after that was anybody who wanted to buy into it could buy into it.
Well, a little at a time, try again.
Yeah, I have learned in this business that sometimes the only way to get a loaf of bread is a slice at a time.
Right. So you take a slice next week. Next year.
Yeah.
Some of the successes, 75 million.
Oh,
did you say?
yeah. This is a very big thing. We wound up with a modest surplus at the end of the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2008, and everybody agreed, we correctly decided to spend it on assistance for home heating oil.
Right.
We've certainly seen what has happened to gasoline prices, up,
Through the
down,
roof.
up, down.
It's going up
Through
again.
the roof. They're going up again now because there was a storm someplace.
Yeah,
I've
the storm
never
down in
understood
Texas,
that.
you know.
And we know that the cost of heating oil, even though the cost of oil is down from a couple of months ago, at the beginning of the summer, is going to be higher this heating season than it was last. These are things my mother worries about. This is what my family
anybody
worries
in
about.
the downtown will.
That's using oil. So we've taken that money and we're divvying it up in a number of different ways. We've got a large amount going.
8.5 million for households with incomes between 31 and 42.
Exactly.
Right?
Now, we are now in the beginnings of the middle class. These aren't poor people.
Right.
These are people who are making twice the poverty level plus. So we are now in the working middle class. They're going to have assistance. Senior citizens are going to have assistance. We're going to be providing cash money if you need to have your furnace or boiler replaced or upgraded. We're sinking money into programs like getting an energy audit of your house so you can make informed decisions about the needs in your particular home for your heating programs. All of these things have been rolled into a lot of really good support for. My family might qualify for this. You know, we don't make anywhere near twice the poverty level, quite frankly, and I think this is going to go a long way, certainly into ensuring people stay warm. Who knows what the weather is going to be like? We've been lucky for a few years where it's been relatively warm seasons, but that help's going to be there. Now, there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
Well, I'm disappointed. We passed this at the end of what? June? We said June, July? July we were in doing it. The Office of Policy and Management, which is the state budget office, says it can't have the forms ready until November.
Oh.
Now, the heating season starts October 1st.
Yeah.
I'm going, July, August, 4 months. What is taking so long to create a form?
We're moving along on the time.
Oh, dear.
So let me just maybe hit the high points. 4 million.
Oh.
4 million for seniors, seniors with income under the state median. 3 million for furnace and boiler replacement. 2 million for insulation and conservation. 2 million for weatherization. 7 million for energy audits to households with that use heat oil. And that the OPM, which is
Office of Policy Management,
hasn't figured out how to give. Okay, that's where you're just touching.
Yeah.
And then
fill out the forms.
Okay,
create some forms. You know, name, address, phone number.
Bureaucrats.
What's the problem?
Bureaucrats, or maybe intentional bureaucracy. Who knows? And then we're going to get into the mortgage relief.
Yes, and very quickly, it's a long, complicated bill, but basically we've seen the whole mortgage market problems that are creating the now international financial issues. Here in Connecticut, we allowed our housing department, the Connecticut CHFA, the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, we gave them more money to help out people who are trying to avoid going into foreclosure. We're allowing them to buy homes that are in foreclosure so that they can become part of the affordable housing stock. That's one of their charges. So there's actual cash money. But there's also, I think this is a real help, for people who are going into foreclosure. We've created a system of mediation in the courts. While money in banks is national and international, since the property's in Connecticut, we're still in charge of how you do a foreclosure. We're giving people more time. The mediators will be trained into here's about how you go about renegotiation and refinancing and get you into something easier, and CHFA will be offering some of these refinances. And we're also going to be working with social service agencies throughout the state, including here in Danbury, to make sure that they have personnel that is trained in how to avoid going into foreclosure. It gives people choices. Informed choices are the secret to getting out of this whole system. The federal government, I was talking to Chris Murphy, Congressman Chris Murphy, is also done a really good package to help out with the money side and with the banking side, but this is also, they dovetail nicely here in Connecticut.
I want to get your telephone number, website, and also the environmental protection, and we got 2 minutes.
Well, I don't remember what my website address is. It's under the Connecticut General Assembly.
Your local number?
My home number, 778-5127. Call me anytime, even if I'm not there.
Right.
The machine's not on if I'm not at my desk.
And then do you have a telephone number in Hartford that you want to give out?
1-800-842-1902. It's toll free from anywhere in Connecticut. That's my office. Jeff Shaw is my chief of staff. Great guy.
Okay.
If I'm not there, he can find me or help you out.
Okay. And then what about the environmental protection in a minute?
We've been doing really good with environmental protection this year in this state. We're way ahead of the curve. We did e-waste a couple of years ago. This year, we attack global warming. We've set standards for reducing emissions in this state. Based on the 1990 levels, down 10% by 2020, down 80% by 2050. Good in their own right. But, and how does this actually fit in with this helping the middle class? It does two things. We don't need to stop being addicted to foreign oil. We need to stop being addicted to oil.
Oil in general.
To oil. We're borrowing money from the Chinese to give to the Middle East, to bring something over here that we burn and poison the atmosphere. This doesn't make any sense to me. I do believe Al Gore's goal of within 10 years getting the technology, the research and development of the technology to make this a clean electricity country is the way to go. And I think that this is the basis here in Connecticut to move that along. And better than that, going back to the economy, it's going to create jobs that can't be outsourced.
That's true.
You can't move wind farms to China.
No, that's true.
You can't save open space in China.
They're waving to me.
We can all do it here.
I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Always a delight.
All right, the same here. I want to thank the community, the people out there, the audience, for tuning in to Community Forum. Tune in next week, same time, same station, and we'll see you then. Good night now.